My name is Janine Watson and I'm the director of Separate Tables, 2 one-act plays by Terence Rattigan with the graduating students. So Separate Tables is 2 short plays. The first play is Table by the Window and the second play is Table 7. There's elements in Terence Rattigan's plays through all of them of, yes, loneliness and separateness, but that's fueled by repression, desire, fear of failed relationships, fear of sexual expression, because he was writing from the 30s to the 60s. This one's set in the 50s. It's set in a beautiful hotel by the sea, and it's a place where people sort of escape for either arrest or the permanent residents live there and have lived there for upwards of 8 years. So we're looking at small lives, but they feel like their lives are really big. They have fears, they have dreams, and the relationships are the most important thing. There are relationships under real pressure in these 2 plays. So they do provide a really great opportunity for the students to do great acting, basically. And it is a period drama, though, which can also be hard because that's, there's a bit of style to that. So it's about getting the truth, but also being truthfully authentic to the period that it's set. I started directing about 10 years ago. I'd done bits and bobs before that, but I worked for Bell Shakespeare directing their education shows, and then I was awarded the Sandra Bates Directing Award at Ensemble Theatre, where you get to assistant direct on a couple of shows, and from there that's when I sort of really dug in and did a lot of directing work for them at Ensemble and Bell Shakespeare, and I've directed, this will be my 4th show I think I've directed for Sydney Actors School. So I think of myself more as a text and story-based director. A lot of directors are aesthetically based and they begin from that aesthetic, and that sort of drives and inspires how they approach the work. I begin with the words on the page. I am an actor, so my passion is working with actors. So my process is really about getting to the real depths of the writing and hopefully helping the actors to attack that with a great sense of being able to connect to their own voice. Rather than playing a character, they connect to themselves and then the story comes through that. And that's, my process is about that. I begin with the words on the page and I'm pretty rigorous about that. And then from there, I always say to them, if you can't perform a play to an audience without sets, without costumes, without lighting, without props, and if you can't perform it like that and it's still compelling, then we haven't nailed the play yet. So all of the other stuff, all of this stuff, is window dressing to what should be great storytelling first. Yeah, so that's really my process. There's a lot of work that I've been doing with them, which is text-based work, and I say to them, I'm still doing this because you're a student, but actually when you get your job out there and you're working at, Old Fitz or Belvoir or, KXT or Ensemble, this work needs to be done at home because very few directors have time to do this in the room, unless they're a text-based director, which I am. Getting them to dig in and apply their process, that has been, I think, the toughest part of it, to go, no, this requires more discipline, more work. Also, I'm a bit of a hard ass. What I'll layer into them, particularly during this part of it, is professional expectations. The professional expectation is that you do not miss a rehearsal unless you are sick. And it is work. And the professional expectation is that you know your lines by a certain date. The professional expectation is that you treat everyone with respect and you care about the greater play more than you care about your role in it. But honestly, even at full-time acting theatre schools, so this is an all-round school, there's screen and all of that, the students don't walk out with that level of professionalism. Sometimes it's baptism by fire. You get into a rehearsal room with a professional and you might fall on your face a few times because you need to experience the rigour of a professional environment in order to really learn those lessons. But that's why I'm a bit of a hard ass with things like that when I'm here. So things like punctuality, things like being ready to work like during tech and lighting plot and all of that, respecting the stage managers and the crew and all the people who are putting it together for you and being ready to go when they say so. You have to be rigorous about that. The students at this school I admire more than any other students because they're doing everything. So they not only have to be invested in the work in the way I've just described it, but they also have to be invested in the world, the aesthetic world. They don't just get to walk in, pop in a costume and feel fabulous. They have to dig in and do the work from the ground up. So what that means is that for a play like this, now that we're in our production section of the rehearsal period, so we're in tech week and we're lighting it and they're building the set, their investment, they've seen the end in sight and they've seen how all the pieces will come together. You can't go to this school without digging in and committing 100%. And it requires that of you, it demands that of you. So they are committed 100%. And some of them are scared of the work and you know, it takes a while for them to just give over, and that's natural. And some of them are like 2 feet in from the beginning, and that is also very natural. So, but the commitment is unwavering, and I've always found that working here. You know, you don't get a say when you're a graduating student about the play that you do. And some plays are really like, wow, so exciting, we get to do this gritty contemporary play, and that's amazing. And other plays like this require a lot more discipline. They require you to research. Terence Rattigan's writing is very, very, very delicate. There's a lot of deep connection between these characters, but he's not forceful or aggressive with his writing. He's not an American writer. They tend to be more muscly. He's a British writer. They're delicate. There are lots of subtext. So it actually requires a lot of discipline. And I find that the more refined a playwright, the more kind of subtextual a playwright, the harder it is for the students and the more boring it is because there's a lot more backstory work. So, but the end result when they do it is absolutely beautiful. So really it's about kind of boosting them, giving them confidence to keep going through it, and knowing that the boring bits will mean that they flourish in performance, and the play is a wonderful experience for the audience in performance. Yeah, we were rehearsing this big scene where in the second play, there's a man who it's been discovered that he's been their friend for like years, like 4 years, but they've found out that he's done something that is a real core-shaking moral divider. And, you know, it was very polite. The students were being very polite. And, you know, Steph, who's playing the character, who's really trying to get them to, you know, make him answerable to what he's done. It was all very held and withheld. And then, so we did this exercise where I was like, you have to say, this was funny, you have to put it in contemporary words, use the same accent, the same physicality, but use an example from your collective consciousness that would shock them as much as a man, you know, trying to get close to a woman in a cinema would do back in the 50s. I was like, so give them an example, and Steph just stood there for a minute. And then I won't tell you what she said, but it clearly involved someone who was familiar to them. She was just throwing someone under the bus. And she said it, and the look on, oh my God, it was absolutely brilliant. The look on their faces, the shock was so authentic. It was like, and then I was like, now do the scene. And they were just kind of shook with that. And you know, and that's not to be method acting, because it was completely fictitious what she was saying. But the exercise was, because there's a separation sometimes between period work, dramatic work set in the 50s, and our contemporary mindsets. But I was trying to help them see that these people are human just like us. They're not just an accent. And when she did that, the whole scene exploded. And it's been compelling ever since. It was really, really fantastic and funny. And the students were like, what? Yeah, so that was great. My favourite part of the play is the language. It's amazing language, and watching these actors in the last couple of weeks I've had the time to do some in-depth text work with them, and when they think they're saying one thing and it's like this sort of, you know, oh, how are you today? Oh yes, very well, thank you. And then I speak to them about Terence Rattigan and what he means about words, and how he repeats the word hope through the play so many times, and suddenly you see their brains explode and go, oh, and then the text comes alive. That's definitely my favourite part of this play. Yeah, it's a beautiful play.
Well, thank you so much.
Pleasure, thank you for having me.